Hello chess fans and welcome to Chess 5, and today I'm going to show you the game between Levon Aronian versus Artemiev Vladislav, and this game is from the Goldmoney Asian Rapid Knockout 2021, and the game I'm going to show you was played a couple of minutes before, and this is the round number 3 of day 1. So all the 3 games went to draw, game number 1, 2 and 4, and this is the game number 3. So let's find out who won the game, and the person who will win the game will win the day number 1. So let's check it out. So Levon Aronian with the white pieces and Artemiev Vladislav with the black pieces. So Levon Aronian with the white pieces started with 1 d4 and Artemiev replied with d5, knight f3, and here we have bishop to f5. Here usually black in this position plays perhaps knight f6 or even perhaps c5 is also fine, but he chose bishop f5, c4, e6, knight c3. We have knight f6, knight to h4 by Levon Aronian. A common reply for white could have been to simply play bishop f4, developing the piece, but at the place of playing bishop f4, he decided to play knight to h4, directly going for the bishop on f5, because if I talk about this position, the important piece of black in this current position is the bishop on f5. So Levon Aronian decided to eliminate the bishop first by playing knight h4. Here we have bishop g6. Here we have queen b3. Not going to capture the bishop so soon. He first played queen b3, making a pressure on the b7 pawn. So here we have knight to c6 by Artemiev, and here we have c into d4, c into d5, e into d5, simplifying the position, and now playing e3. All those who are thinking why not to capture the pawn on b7, what's happening? Now it's knight into d4. After knight into d4, we can play bishop f4, but after rook b8, queen into a7, it's knight c to check, and white is losing a piece. And actually, in many games, even in the future, you will play the games, you will see this position currently many times, and it is not right to capture the pawn on b7, because after capturing the pawn on b7, you will get the material, but at the place of getting material, your opponent will get a huge amount of development, which results a bad position for you. So that's why it's better to not capture the pawn on b7. That's after, at the place of capturing of the pawn, here Levon Aronian simply pushed the pawn to e3, developing the pieces. Here we have bishop to b4, knight into g6, capturing up the bishop on g6, h into g6, bishop to d2, castle, bishop d3, rook to e8. Here we have castle, bishop into c3, bishop into c3, and now playing rook to b8, protecting the pawn on b7. Here we have rook to e1. Perhaps the plan could be to play something like f3 e4, having a very nice center. So here we have g5 by Artemiev. G5, I think it was an inaccuracy. In this position, he could have played knight to e7. And the idea of playing knight to e7 in this position here is, here black is preparing to play c6. And after black will play c6, black would be having a very nice pawn chain, and everything is pretty fine. Even black can play knight to f5 and perhaps preparing to play knight e4. But he chose g5, and perhaps he's chopping this f4 ideas. Perhaps white can play f4 ideas in the future, so he stopped the idea by playing g5, and this move is also a fine move. But here comes f3 by Levon Aronian. Now he's preparing to play e4 in the future and having a very nice center. So here we have queen to d6 by Artemiev. Here a3, perhaps Levon Aronian is planning to play bishop b4 at some point, or perhaps he's preparing to move the queen and playing b4 in the future. There could be many ideas. Here we have g4 by Artemiev. It looks a very nice move to me, because both the g pawns are in the same line, so it's better to push the pawn and try to create some weaknesses. Because if white will either capture the pawn or either will push the pawn, the e4 square will become weak, and perhaps black can play knight e4 and create many weaknesses on for the white side. So I personally feel g4 was a nice move. Here comes queen to d1 by Levon Aronian. and here we have g into f3. Capturing of the pawn was not a nice move by Artemiev. He perhaps kept the pawn on g4, or he can even push the pawn to g3, because by pushing the pawn to g3 here, if white will capture the pawn after queen into g3 here, although white is having a nice position, but it's completely playable position. Perhaps black can even move the knight to h5, perhaps rook e6, rook h6, and there could be some ideas to attack white king. And even at if white doesn't capture the pawn and he pushes the pawn, then we can definitely see that there could be some back rank ideas in the future, definitely. And all the dark squares have become very weak, so it gives a very nice position to black, and it's an equal position. But after queen d1, here Artemiev captured the pawn and just removing all the tension. He should have kept the tension, but he just removed the tension by capturing up the f3 pawn. Here we have rook into f3, rook e6. We have bishop f5, hitting the rook on e6. So rook went back to e7, rook f1, rook b8, creating more pressure on the pawn on e3. Here we have queen e1, and by playing queen e1, it's a dual function. First of all, the queen is protecting the e3 pawn, which is the most important case, and the idea could be to play rook h3, queen h4, and it's a threat to checkmate black king, and that's why queen e1 was a very nice move by Levon Aronian. After queen e1, here Artemiev played knight to e4, so perhaps going for the knight on bishop on c3, and also placing the knight on a very nice square on e4. And here we have queen to h4 by white. And in this position, if you will compare the positions of the position, then you will find that white pieces have been very successfully developed, and perhaps it looks very dangerous for black, because the idea of white is very simple. He wants to play queen h7, it's a check, so king is forced to go to f8, and queen h8 is checkmate. And it is not an only threat. There are many threats. Even white can play rook h3 and it's a queen h8 checkmate is a threat. And there are many threats in this position. So actually white is better in this position. In the game, g6 was played. A better move at the place of pushing the g6 could be to play queen h6, because the idea of playing queen h6 in this position here is, after queen trade, bishop will capture the knight on e4, rook into e4, rook into f6, capturing up the pawn. Here we have rook e7, rook to f5, hitting the pawn on d5, and after rook d7, rook f3, protecting the pawn because the rook was attacking the pawn. White is a pawn up in this position, and the pawn on h6 is also loose, and which gives a better position to white, but it's a fine position and black can continue the position. But what happened in the game after queen h4, here black played g6, and I want all of you guys to pause the video and try to find the best move for white in this position, which was played by Levon Aronian. I'll give you a couple of seconds. So if you found the move, congratulations on finding the move which Levon Aronian found, giving up the bishop on f5. Who cares, because there is a checkmate on h8. Yeah, here black cannot capture the bishop because it's a checkmate on h8. Even queen h7 is a checkmate, but it's of 2 moves. That's why it's completely winning for white. G6 was a completely blunder. Here after rook h3, the only move is to play queen f6, which was played in the game, covering up the f8 square, h8 square, so that there would be no checkmate. And after queen trade is definitely not a good idea, because it equalizes the position, although white is slightly better, but it equalizes the position. So what played in the game was very simple and very nice by Levon Aronian. As you can see, it's if white will move the bishop, the queen would be attacked by the rook on f1. So first, Levon Aronian simply played queen h7 check. Here king is forced to go to f8, and now Levon Aronian simply played bishop into e4, doing nothing, just simply capturing up the bishop, knight, no complications in the position, keeping the position very simple. Here white is a piece plus, and the queen is attacked on f6. So if you will try to move the queen, here I'm simply going to move my bishop. and I'm a piece plus. And even where will you put the queen on f6? Because if you will move the queen somewhere like e6, it's going to be queen h8 and it's game over. So that's why after playing bishop into e4 by Levon Aronian, in this position that Artemiev Vladislav with the black pieces resigned the game and Levon Aronian with the white pieces won the game. So it was a very fantastic game played by both the players, but I think there was no complications as there usually in top level games. So it was a fantastic game by Levon Aronian and it was a very positional type of game. As we can see, h4 g6 was a blunder, and it was, I think perhaps it was much like positional game, but in the end Levon Aronian with his experience converted his game onto his side, and the day one winner is Levon Aronian. So Artemiev is forced to win tomorrow's day so that the game would go in playoff and he would be having some chances. So till then, stay tuned. If you like this game, then please like to my video. If you are new to my channel, then please subscribe to my channel. I will come up with these new videos for you, so please stay tuned because the tournament is still pending. Thank you for watching and bye bye.